Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about hopelessness. Now, hopelessness can come in different ways, different forms in life. There's different avenues and little nuances. Well, a lot of times hopelessness comes from a lot of adversity one faces. Like, remember when what was that, the Hurricane Katrina, someone hits something devastating happens in his or her life, their home gets annihilated, they feel like there's no hope, they have no insurance to cover things. Hopelessness, people deal with this on a day-to-day basis. I deal with it in certain ways. I feel, as I've stated before about that elusive love and finding this, I know it sounds redundant, I sound like a broken record or a CD stuck in a CD player, but I'm just saying that as an example. What we have to do to combat this feeling, I think a lot of times, is try to accentuate the positive element in our lives and try never to give up hope. I know that's a lot of times that's easier said than done. And somebody born into some impoverished circumstance can obviously have a very difficult time in doing this. You hear some stories about rags to riches people, this person that grows up in poverty-stricken environment, and they become like some famous person or prolific athlete and this and that. But we do know those stories are very few and far between. They don't happen very often. And I think a lot of it is what we have to remember is to be realistic in our hopes. I mean, at some point you may want to reach for the stars, because if you don't reach that high, it's kind of like if you reach for gold, the highest you'll get is gold. If you set your sights on silver, that's the highest you're going to get. Maybe for some people, though, they might want to just be, I guess you could say, realistic. And when I say this, I don't mean not to set the bar as high as you can, but do it within what your capabilities are, what's connected with your positive attributes as a person. And you look at like the story with Anthony Robbins. He's this renowned motivational guru. And Anthony Robbins, in his book, was kind of heartwarming. He told of a saga that he was overweight. He didn't have much or any money, I believe, and he went on to greatness. He decided that he was going to do something that would leave an indelible impact on others well after he died. He's like the incorrigible optimist, and anybody that's watched his videos or seen him on TV or listened to any audio tapes, read any of his books, understand what he's about. He's very motivational. But I think what it is you look at some people, and some people are born into affluence and wealth. Some people go through life without even having a monetary worry. Now, those people never seem pensive or doubtful about anything because they have virtually everything they want. There's other people in life that are the antithesis of this, that have to work so laboriously to attain everything. People that are born almost into I guess you could say, a situation in life or where it doesn't seem like it really is something where, I'm not saying it's necessarily an abhorrent situation, but a situation which is associated with many limitations, maybe being in some community where the crime level is high, for example, or where there's poverty, or where the family doesn't have strong financial acumen, or there's not a lot of resources in the area. I do feel for those people. There's some people in life who, I've talked about this in another video about ostracism, which in my opinion is really anything other than any kind of physical pain or discomfiture. It's about the worst feeling somebody could have, about being condemned from society, being condemned for who you are, sometimes for being too scrupulous, for being too refined, think people thinking maybe you got something to hide because you're quote unquote different from everyone else. It's like the way society is. It's almost like if somebody goes outside and conducts themselves in a very proper and appropriate manner and very scrupulous, they wonder, well, is there any secrets? Gee, I just wonder, well, maybe if this person smoked a joint, oh, they once in a while they would be considered normal, or took like a fifth of vodka or whatever. And it's just a shame that happens. And a lot of times when that happens, people get into this feeling of despair, and they feel there's not much hope for them because they've been condemned for being different. Now, the hopelessness, as I've stated before, it can come in such a variety of ways. It's not even funny. There's a multitude forms of this, and obviously I'm not going to be able to talk about it in this video, even though my moon's in Gemini. So I like to ramble, and I could be loquacious and talkative. I know that sometimes I do ramble a little some of these videos, but I like to articulate my thoughts, and I do believe that I have some profuse knowledge in some areas, and I think there are informative. But anyway, I'm going off on doing a Gemini moon, going off on tangents thing here. But I just like to say that the people that feel that there's no hope for them, or they feel like isolated, or feel that there's nothing positive in their life, the one thing I would suggest is try to tap into some gift, some attribute that you have, and something that you have from within. Maybe that's some untapped potential that you have not really shared with others, or maybe there's been some reluctance or apprehension where you didn't feel comfortable or confident in sharing with people. And tap into it and try to work on it to the best of your ability. If you think you can go for that degree in that particular field, you have an affinity for that thing, then by all means, as long as you have the financial means, go ahead and do it. I think a lot of times, not a lot, but there are some people that may naively go about certain things. When they hear a motivational speaker, like an Anthony Robbins might say, well, you know what? Go on if you need to take a vacation, go ahead and take it. Well, what he's actually saying is, if you have the financial means and resources to go do it, nobody expects anyone to use all their money to go take a vacation. Then when they come back from their vacation, they have either no or virtually no resources or money. But I think most people have enough common sense to realize it. But sometimes when I look at some motivational, like a Anthony Robbins speaker, he doesn't always elucidate or expound on certain things. And if someone takes every little thing at the literal value, they can be in some trouble. So it's important to do things and be expansive and try to be upbeat regarding things, but do it within your means at the time. Like I said, I do understand about hopelessness because I've run into some situations in my life experience where right now, as I've stated in some of my other videos, not to do the broken record thing again, but my life is essentially in solitude. I have a few friends, and they're quality friends, and that is important. It's good to have some people. Remember, it's about quality, not quantity. We get too engrossed in maybe in our lives and trying to say, okay, all these people in our lives, they make up who we are, when the reality is that we ourselves, our character, our demeanor, our characteristics, that's what we're comprised of, and that is what ultimately makes us up. And just remember, it's about hopelessness. Don't go down the gutter or feel like, oh, you got to resort to drugs, alcohol, or something that's going to ultimately be detrimental to your health and can be perilous and can lead to death or your demise or some great sickness. So just remember, there's always outlets for help. Find them, Google them. We all have the potential to do things to better ourselves. It's just a matter of utilizing our attributes and working within what we know we're capable of, what our talents are. You've seen me A lot of you know I do the astrology videos on the one of my other channels, Edwin Learnard. I do the football analyst thing on YouTube, NFL analyst on that channel. And this channel, as most of you know, is kind of like a potpourri of plenty. I do variety of things, and a lot of my videos are similar to what I'm doing now. It's about just giving people understanding of things, that they're not alone in certain ways in life, that they don't need to always think that everything is their fault. It's a little self-help, it's a little compassion that I'm injecting into the videos, I guess. Some motivational, some things where they realize that it's not always about maybe something that they did, why things aren't, why things might be happening in an adverse way. We talk about, I've heard some people say, well, we shape our own destiny. That has nothing to do with extraneous influences. Well, for the most part, we do shape our own destiny. Yes, we dictate the course of our own actions. If we associate ourselves with the wrong contemporaries, that's on us as well. We can't always blame everybody else for everything, but at the same time, what does somebody do if they're run over and they become by a car, and they miraculously survive, say, but then they become a paraplegic, or they have some kind of irrevocable damage done to them and they're hindered from a physical standpoint? What are you going to tell those people? You're going to say, oh, it was your fault, you got run over when a car ran a red light and hit you when you had the right of way of crossing the street. So there are isolated examples like I'm giving you now that indicate that it's not always about our fault. Hopelessness is tied into this, because you take that example. Yeah, I could understand why that hopelessness might come in. That person can watch all the motivational videos that they want, and go online and hear self-help audio, self-help videos online, read extensively, read these books, information manuals on how to help yourself. But there are some cases where they don't. There are some people that aren't going to have that physical capability. Or what if a child is born and they're born in a state where they don't have their full mental faculties, and they don't have even, and for whatever reason, they have born with a below average IQ. And IQ has to do with a person's potential to learn. IQ generally is not going to change, especially if you're like born in a situation like that where you're handicapped mentally in some capacity. Well, those people are going to have some limitations. They're going to be in some kind of classes that might be somewhat modified, or they're going to cater to those people. Curriculum will be demonstrated a way that only they can learn. They can only assimilate a certain amount of knowledge. They might not be able to handle college courses like the average person can, the person that would have an at least average IQ or a little bit higher. So, and then they're limited in their vocation in life. And I like it when some people say, they'll say, okay, if you're disabled, get disability. And people don't realize the painstaking process that is. Yeah, it's fine when it all kicks in, but the government, when disability kicks in, I know at least for most people, if not all, that they compute when disability is received, they don't even factor in the cost of living average. They just factor in your raw average, regardless of the time period you work. So try telling that to people that are in a situation like that, when they really are facing limited funds and they can't physically go out and work to do much of anything in that interim period before they get the disability. Disability may take 2, 3, or 4 years, maybe even longer for some people, because disability is not as attainable as a lot of people may think, unless there is some strong, significant mental disability the person has and they have been clinically diagnosed by a physician with it. So, or if a physical disability impairment would exist that was officially classified. But what if somebody has some nerve damage, something that might not even come up in a neurology test or like a nerve conduction test? You know how hard that's going to be for that person to eventually prove and show anything substantial that makes people, whoever's on the disability committee, think that they should be able to get it. So it's just important to remember that hope is essential, but a lot of times I think it has to be within realistic means, because a lot of it, what we hope and aspire for, are based on what we can do as people. And just like I said before, emphasizing the things that we are really good at. That is the main thing, and try the best you can not to be influenced too much by pessimistic thought, and especially if you know in your heart there are things that you can do that these other people are saying you can't. Use that negativity as motivation to propel you to greater heights and to do those things, to contradict those people that say you couldn't do it when in your heart it was something realistic that you felt you could do. Well, people, this is Edwin Learnard, and until next time, stay well.